Hello everyone, welcome back to another session by K21 Academy. Today our expert trainer will be talking about Domain 1, that is configure and manage virtual networking. So let's get into the video.
So in the domain one, we have configure and manage virtual machine. So let's see what all things that we have to recap here. Implement and manage. So this is exam outline, and from these particular topics, questions may come. Right? Implement and manage virtual network. Secure access to virtual network. Configure load balancing. Monitor and troubleshooting the virtual network. Integrate an on-premises network with an Azure Virtual Network. We have discussed about everything, but we'll just do a quick recap. So domain 1.1. So implement a virtual networking. So when we are talking about virtual networking, any resource that you are going to create on Azure, it needs a network. When I'm talking about any resource, I'm specifically talking about Azure VM. I'm specifically talking about Azure VM. So if you want to create Azure VM and if you want to create an infrastructure, the first thing that you need is a network, right guys? So for that, you need to create that particular virtual network. Now tell me this thing. Okay, I am going to create a VNet. What all things are needed to create this VNet on Azure portal? We need a resource group. Then what you need? A name and a CIDR range. Don't you think, guys? You need a CIDR range, correct? To create your virtual network. If you are going to create a virtual network, they will ask you for a range. What is the range of this particular virtual network? So you will mention 10.0.0.0/8. So this is my virtual network, and inside the subnet you are going to subdivide your virtual network, which can be maybe 1.0/24, and this can be 10.0.2.0/24, right? So these two network CIDR range are basically sub part of this big one, CIDR IP range, right guys? So you need a name, you need a CIDR, and you also need to mention which region we have to create. I was specifically talking about Azure portal, right? So if you are going to create a VNet on Azure portal, what all things you need? So these and all things you need, right? So that is what basically it is talking about. It is a fundamental building block for your private network in Azure, right? It enables many type of Azure resources such as Azure virtual machines to securely communicate with each other. Internet and on-premises network. How you can make sure it is securely communicating? You are using something called NSG, which we will discuss now. Let's discuss about peering. So if you want to connect two VNets, so this is one of the virtual network, this is another virtual network. What we should do? We should enable something called VNet peering, and once we'll enable this peering, resources from this particular network, which is basically part of this particular CIDR range, will be able to talk to resource from this VNet 2, which is actually part of another CIDR range. Tell me if this particular virtual network is having this CIDR range, and let's say this is VNet 1, right? And this VNet 2. So this particular virtual network is also having the same IP range. Will they be able to communicate with each other? Will this peering will happen or not? Basically, the answer is no, and there will not be any peering because it is not possible itself to peer two virtual networks which are having same CIDR ranges. It is not possible for them to get peered. So this is how the architecture is. This is how it will work. If you are trying to connect a virtual network which is having this CIDR range and another virtual network which is having same CIDR name, there will not be any communication. Peering will not happen. Okay, it will throw an error. Now, two types of peering are there. First one is virtual network peering, another one is global virtual network peering. So what is the difference? So when your VNets are regional, right? When I'm saying regional, both the virtual networks belongs to same region, right? Then it is regional virtual network peering, because here global prefix or the pre-word has been added. Global virtual network peering means your this particular virtual network in East US, and another virtual network is in, let's say, Australia East, right? And when you are connecting these two virtual networks by using peering, then that is called as global virtual network peering. All right. So that is something. These are two different kinds of virtual network peering. Now, domain naming system, DNS. So what does DNS does? DNS is a directory service that provides a mapping between the name of the host on network and its numerical address. When they are talking about its numerical address is nothing but its IP address, right? So you have, let's say, this particular virtual machine, this virtual machine, and this virtual machine. This is A, this is B, this is C. This is having IP address 10.4.6.7. This is having IP address 10.4.6.8. This is IP address 10.4.6.9, right? So what will be easy to connect? What should be the easiest way to refer this virtual machine? Are you going to say it's a virtual machine A, or are you going to say this is 10.4.6.7 virtual machine? Or you can say 10.4.6.8 virtual machine. It is not human like, right? You cannot remember the IP address, right? But you can remember the name, as we know our name, right? My name is Kumar, we have Amarjit, we have Jay on the call, right? So in the same way, this domain naming system or DNS will work, right? So DNS, what it will do, it will map, it will use this particular IP address and it will map a name against it. So here in this case it's C, right? So once this particular table, it's a kind of table, you can actually call it as a table. So this is how it will get updated. So it will be like B, it will be like 7, it will be A. So from here also, if A wants to communicate to C, it will automatically ask I want to communicate to C, and this DNS will help with the specific IP address that is actually updated on C, right? This is how things will work. So basically what exactly it will do, it will allow users of network to utilize user friendly names, right? That's what I was discussing about, user friendly names when looking for other hosts instead of remembering the IP address, right? Which is more of a human way to learn things, to keep things in memory, user friendly name. So that is what you can, if you are using DNS, you can leverage this particular thing. How many kinds of DNS types are there in Azure? There is something called private and there is something called public, right? So you can leverage private DNS inside your virtual network, inside your private network, inside your virtual network. You can create a private DNS so that resources inside your virtual network will be able to talk to each other by leveraging this private DNS option. See, when you are creating virtual networks inside, so basically when this particular things will come into the picture, the private DNS, the major things about private DNS, when it will come into the picture. So you have this VNet 1, right? You have this VNet 2, right? And there is a peering with VNet 1 and VNet 2, right? This is having different CIDR range, this is having different CIDR range, but this VNet 1 and VNet 2 belongs to your private network. You haven't kept it open for public. Now you want servers from this particular virtual machine and this particular virtual machine, we know they can talk. But when we are creating a private DNS here, when we are creating a private DNS, we can use the name of the servers, and automatic resolution to the IP address of the server in other VNet will automatically happen by leveraging the private DNS, right? And same thing goes with public DNS. So here I am just talking about private network. If you will apply the same thing into the bigger picture, it will be called as public DNS, right? So when I am saying I want to connect to 8.8.8.8, nobody knows what is 8.8.8.8 is, right? But this is basically Google DNS server, Google DNS server, right? And here you will be able to, we will not be having access because this will be Google's infrastructure, but here somewhere in this particular server there will be an entry which will allow www.google.com to connect to an IP address, and that particular IP address should be that web server IP address where google.com specifically is running, right? So that is what something that this DNS will help you to do, right? I think this should be clear. So these are sample exam questions and I want you guys to actually participate in this. Okay, so there will be some question that will come into the screen and there will be an answer that will also come into the screen. So tell me, read out this question. What is the question? Read it out. A company has following virtual networks defined in Azure, right? We have VNet 1, we have VNet 2, VNet 3. VNet 1 address space is 10.0.0.0/16 and it's part of resource group 1, and this resource group is part of subscription 1 which is in central US, right? VNet 2 is having this IP address range which is part of resource 2 subscription A East US, and VNet 3, this is the address space which I am talking about, right? Resource group 3 different subscription and East US. Now can you establish a virtual network peering between VNet 2 and VNet 3? Will it happen or not? The actual answer is basically the connectivity will happen between VNet 2 and VNet 3. Whether or not they are in same subscription, that doesn't matter, right? They are having what I just discussed before with you guys. The CIDR range should be different. The CIDR range should be different. Whether they are in same region, different region, same subscription, different subscription. But there will be a connectivity between VNet 2 and VNet 3 because these CIDR ranges are different. So if the same questions will ask, if someone will ask the same question, will connectivity from VNet 1 and VNet 2, will it happen? What will be your answer, guys? CIDR ranges are overlapping. So this is the bigger CIDR range and this is just a smaller subdivision of same CIDR range. It will not happen, right? So now we will see secure access to virtual networks. What all things can happen if you want to secure your virtual networks, right? There is something called network security group. We have discussed very much thoroughly about network security groups. What are they? Consists of a set of access control rule that describe traffic filter, right? These can be associated with virtual machines or subnet in the same region. When we are talking about virtual machine, where this NSG will get connected, to which particular resource of virtual machine this NSG will be connected, NIC card. So this is where your NSG will get connected. So that is what it is telling. So two places where your NSG can be connected, NIC card and subnet, not on VNet. Always remember, okay? The rules defined in network security groups acts as a filters. We know how those things will work, right? This is what they are just telling. This is virtual network. You have created two different subnets. This is subnet 1, subnet 2, and you can create two different network security groups and connect to these two subnets to control the traffic, right? That is something is there. There is something called application security group, right? So application security group will manage the security of virtual machines by grouping them according to the applications that run on them, right? I will tell you what exactly it is. A feature that allows the application centric use of network security group. Access is always granted based on workloads. So what it is saying is like, this is VNet. Inside this VNet, let's imagine this is one subnet inside which you have these virtual machines. This is your subnet. Now this red one. So what I am doing is like, I will create a resource called application security group. I will add my web servers into that application security group. In the same way, I will create one new application security group and I'll add my app servers into that. I'm not talking about NSG, we are talking about ASG, application security group. And in the same way, I'll create one more application security group and we'll add these servers, and the name of that particular application security group will be DB servers. Okay, all these servers are part of the same VNet. Let's say they are all part of same subnet, right? That is where your NSG will get attached. Now once you have added these servers to different application security groups, you can actually create NSG rules based on top of these ASGs, application security group. So you can see here what we are doing. Allow web to app, this is the name. So web servers can connect to app servers at port 443. If you will be having only one server, you can mention the IP address here. So IP address from this particular IP address to this particular IP address, allow the connectivity at port 443. But here we have multiple servers, right? So we are doing nothing, we are just adding these servers to a name or to a service which is called as application security group, and by leveraging this application security group, we are making sure web servers can connect to app servers at port 443 And where we can create this rule, we can create this rule in our network security group just by mentioning the name of our application security group, right? So that is what application security group will give you advantage, right? Inside the same virtual network, inside the same subnet, if you have multiple servers which are having different functionalities, you can add these servers to one security group which is called as application security group, and then you can create network security group rules by using those application security groups to make sure the traffic at a particular port is open or denied. You can see here, right? This Azure firewall, I think you guys have idea about Azure firewall. So basically what exactly Azure firewall is, Azure firewall is a managed, right? It's a managed service, cloud based network security service that protects your Azure virtual network resources, right? Controlling outbound traffic, outbound network access to important parts of an overall networking plan. So what you can do is, like, the structure what you are seeing here is called hub and spoke architecture. So in this particular core VNet, that's what we will call it as core or central VNet, we will keep our Azure firewall. And from here, from outside internet, right? This is internet. These servers will be able to talk via Azure firewall to internet, and people from internet, right? People from internet will be connecting to these servers for by leveraging any services, but they have to go through this particular Azure firewall. And this Azure firewall, what it will give you, it will give you the capability to make sure your security, when we are talking about security, network security is up to date, and any malicious IP addresses, any FQDNs, if there is any cross site scripting, if there is anyone who is trying to hack into your systems, right? Or if someone from inside is trying to access a website which is actually not authorized to use in your company, right? All things you can manage by using something called Azure firewall, which you have to keep in the central VNet, right? So that is what something is there. And one more thing in Azure firewall, I think if you guys remember, there are like two tiers. One is basic tier and another one is standard tier. Standard tier, you can deploy Azure firewall in multiple availability zones, AZs, right? So that is what something is there. So this also can come into the picture when you are giving the exam, or this is something that you need to know. Okay, Bastion network. What is Bastion network? Simple answer, it's a managed jumps box that has been provided by Azure. Simple, right? It's a fully platform managed PaaS service. Okay, just keep that in mind. It's a PaaS service that has been provided by Azure to provide RDP on SSH over TLS. TLS is like it will be secure. Maybe HTTPS will be there, right? At port 443 to all VMs in the network. So if you are creating an Bastion network, this is the your VNet. Inside this one particular Azure Bastion will get created. It will be having a public IP address. You have to connect to this particular virtual network, virtual machine, which will be created by Azure Bastion, and in turn, by using that particular Azure Bastion VM, you can connect to other VMs inside your VNet. So that is very simple, right? Azure Bastion is a managed jump box. It means that we can configure our jump box according to our needs, right? Remember, you cannot interact with it directly, but you can configure it. Why it is saying you cannot interact with it directly? Because you don't have the access to the virtual machine which is actually running in the backend to provide you that remote box, a remote jump box, which in turn will be provided by creating this Azure Bastion service, right? But it supports both RDP and SSH connections, and you can also play with NSGs to make your connection even more secure, right? So that is something is there. Then we have configure load balancing. So what all things are there in the load balancing? So there is something called application gateway is there, right? Application gateway was there, load balancer was there, traffic manager was there. These are the three major load balancing things that we need to discuss when we are talking about 104, right? If you're going for 303 or 304, one more thing will get added, that is I think Azure front door, right? That is something which will get added extra. We have thoroughly discussed about Azure Application Gateway. I showed you how you can configure Application Gateway, right? So all those things we have discussed, but what exactly? So application gateway is a web traffic load balancer that enables to manage traffic to your web applications, right? Traditional load balancers operate at, I told you where I showed the OSI diagram also, right? So normal load balancers, which is actually the Azure load balancers, will work on OSI layer 4, that is TCP and UDP layer, and route traffics based on the IP address and the port and its destination. So it is talking about traditional load balancer, but application gateway will work on layer 7. Now Azure load balancers allow you to distribute traffic to your backend virtual machines. Azure load balancer provides high availability for your application. Load balancer is fully managed service, we also know that. So just coming back to this application gateway, we know that it will basically route the traffic based on URL, right? URL based routing you can do at layer 7. So if you want to go to images folder, it will go here. So it's just an example, and videos, it will go here. So if someone is trying to connect to contoso.com/images, it will go to images backend server pool. But in contrast to application gateway, we have Azure load balancers. So it will be having a public IP address. You just need to connect to this public IP address, and it will automatically redirect to any of the virtual machine that is running in the backend at port 80. And in turn, this particular internal load balancer is there. So these virtual machines can talk to this private IP address. This is private IP address because this is internal load balancer. Keep that in mind, it's okay. So that it can talk to these business tier servers at port 443. So that is what it will do. Monitor and troubleshooting virtual networks. So we have discussed about network watcher, I think. Network watcher, we have discussed about network watcher, and that is where this is the tool where you can troubleshoot and monitor. Azure monitor, you can monitor your virtual networks also. So connection monitor can be used to monitor. It's this connection monitor, I think it's a part of network watcher. If you'll go to network watcher, you will be able to find this connection monitor. So this is the tool which you can use to monitor on-premises connectivity to Azure and other things also. You can see non-Azure hosts, right? Azure virtual machines, right? So these things you can connect and you can actually monitor. So it can be used to monitor network connectivity between an Azure virtual machine and IP address. When it is talking about IP address, this can be private or it can be public also. Private address can be assigned to another Azure resource or a resource on the internet or on premises. So this particular IP address can be from anywhere. It can be on premises. If there is a connectivity and you want to monitor, then you can update that IP address there. So what will happen once you will create this connection monitor and you started making sure virtual machines, and let's say this is your on-prem, right? So you are monitoring the connectivity, so logs will get created. You can store those logs in your Azure log analytics workspace, and then later you can actually go ahead and by using KQL language you can also try to query on those logs to understand more about those logs and the connectivity that is happening. So that is what you can do, right? You can use network watcher that I just showed it to you. So what exactly this is we are talking about topology, network topology. So time and again I was showing it to you guys so that you guys will be able to understand what all things and what all connectivity and what all resources are there that is connected to your VNet, right? So network will provide you the ability to diagnose your most common VPN gateway and connection issues, allowing you not only to identify the issue but also to use the details logs created to help further investigate. So if you will check, if you'll search for network watcher, you will get a lot of tools, right? So one of the tools is NSG log, I think, right? Let me just open that. And so this is our network watcher. Here you can see network diagnostic tool, IP verify flow, NSG diagnostic, next hop, effective security group rules, VPN troubleshooting, right? Connection troubleshooting. Apart from that, you can capture the logs, NSG logs, diagnostic logs, right? Traffic analytics is also there. So you can basically you can use this network watcher to monitor and capture the logs also. Network performance monitor. This is what connection monitor I was just discussing about, right? This connection monitor. This was classic one. This is the new one. So you can leverage that, and then provide hop by hop path. So we have seen like next hop, right? From source to destination, hop by hop latency. There you will get how much time it is taking one hop to another hop, right? Minimum and maximum and average latency between source and destination. So by using that connectivity monitor and a topology view of the source and destination, you can troubleshoot connections with Azure Network Watcher using Azure portal. All right. So integrate our on-premises to Azure, right? So what all things are there? So there is something called Azure VPN Gateway, right? We have thoroughly discussed about it, virtual private network. Azure VPN Gateway provides cross-premises connectivity between customer premises and Azure. Okay, and this tutorial covers basic VPN gateway deployment items such as creating and managing, and you can also create gateway by using CLI and PowerShell. So until now we have created by using portal, but you can use CLI and PowerShell also to deploy your VPN gateway. How you can configure your application gateway? By using this link. Now the other thing, so we have seen there are two ways in which you can connect. So first thing was VPN gateway. VPN gateway, right? In VPN gateway, what all things you'll get? Site to site, point to site, right? Site to site connectivity and point to site connectivity. How this connectivity will happen? Over the internet, right? If you guys remember, by using IKE v2 IPsec tunneling, right? So what exactly will happen? A virtual tunnel will get created between your on premises and Azure. So let's say this is your Azure, this is your on prem, this is internet, right? And this is VPN, virtual private network tunnel. And by using this, the connectivity will happen, the data flow will happen from here and there. So something like this there. But when we are talking about express route lets you extend your on-premises network into Microsoft cloud over a private connection with the help of a connectivity provider, right? So this connectivity provider is no one other than your internet service provider, right? And there are registered internet service provider that will help you to create this express route with your nearby Azure data center. With express route you can manage connections to Microsoft cloud services such as Azure and Office 365. I have discussed about this thoroughly. So when you are using express gateway, you can leverage express gateway to use your IaaS infrastructure, your PaaS infrastructure, and your SaaS infrastructure that is running on Azure. So all the data traffic will flow over your Azure express route. But in case of VPN gateway, only IaaS infrastructure as a service data will flow from your on-premises to Azure. So that is something is there. So it is just showing you how the connectivity is happening, right? Express route. So this is the express route, how it looks like on Azure, right? And Equinix is, I think it should be mentioned as your internet service provider or your edge location. Equinix is one of the partner or internet service provider from Azure. So this is where they will create the edge location for you that will be nearby to West US2, and then in turn it will connect to your Azure data center like this. Azure data center will be also having its edge location where the circuit connectivity will happen, right? So that is something is there. And this is how you can configure your virtual WAN, right? So virtual WAN is a one-stop shop to manage your complete network inter-site connectivity infrastructure. So you can use Azure Virtual WAN to manage your VPN gateways as well as like inside the VPN gateway site to site connectivity or point to site connectivity, and your Azure Express route also, right? So inside an Azure Virtual Network WAN, Azure Virtual WAN, you can manage your complete inter-site connectivity infrastructure, right? So I have showed you guys also by using the dashboard how exactly it will work. So Azure Virtual WAN is a networking service that brings many networking, security, and routing functionalities together to provide a single operation interface. So it's a one-stop shop for managing your complete inter-site connectivity resources that is running on Azure, right?
So, guys, this was our expert from Team K21 Academy. And if in case you missed upon anything or if you could not understand anything from what our trainers explained, then we have something really special for you. We have our free class on Microsoft Azure Admin Certification for beginners along with some question and answers. Under this class, you'll be learning about who should learn Azure Cloud and why. We'll be learning about Azure Certification Roadmap for beginners and a lot of demos about Azure core services, more than 30 plus hands-on labs and whatnot. And if you want to register for this free class, then you just have to log on to k21academy.com/AZ-10402. So just now, let me just give you a demo for the same. Alright, so what you have to do is just open your browser and type k21academy.com/AZ10402. After that, you'll be seeing a page like this. You just have to click on book your seats now. And after that, just select an event date when you're available, add your name, add your email address, add your phone number, and click on Yes, Save My Seat Now. Moving ahead, you'll be seeing this kind of link on the extreme right. Just save that link, add it to your calendars, and I'll see you in this class. Till then, take care and keep learning.